This is the diagram of mature embryo sac. The previous class diagram. So today we shall start pollination. Okay. Pollination. The PPT is exclusively based on the NEET syllabus. NCRT, not NEET, NCRT. In angiosperms, the male gamete, namely the sperm, is produced in the pollen. In turn, the pollen is produced in the anther of stamen. Whereas the female gamete, namely the ovum or the egg, is produced in embryo sac of ovary. In angiosperms, both the gametes, male and female gametes, are non-motile. For fertilization, they must come nearer each other. How it occurs? So it occurs or takes place by pollination. Hence, pollination is necessary. Pollination is followed by fertilization. Fertilization is followed by seed formation. Seed formation is followed by fruit formation. This is how in angiosperms takes place. Okay. Now we shall see the definition of pollination. What is pollination? Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a pistil is called pollination. When pollination takes place, the pollen grains are deposited on the stigmatic surface of pistil or gynoecium. Okay. Next, classification. Depending on the source of pollen, pollination is classified into two types. One we call autogamy. Auto means a self. Gamy means marriage, self-marriage. Next, xenogamy. Now, we shall study the first one, autogamy. Autogamy is also called self-pollination. What is autogamy? Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of same flower is called autogamy. So the pollen is transferred to the stigma of the same flower. Okay. For this process or for autogamy, flower must be bisexual. Very important. Both stamen and pistil must be there. Another important notable point is in self-pollination, the genes are not coming from outside. A very important point. The autogamy consists of two types or two kinds, you can say. One is homogamy and geitonogamy. Homogamy and geitonogamy. What is homogamy? Homo, at a time. So, it is a type of self-pollination in which the pollen grains and the stigma mature at the same time. That is what we call synchronization is essential for homogamy. Synchronization means both male and female must mature at the same time. Okay. Here, the stigma and the anther are close each other. And as I already told you, the flowers must be bisexual. A very important point. It is nothing but self-pollination. Example P. Okay. P means pea plant. Next, geitonogamy. There is a difference between homogamy and geitonogamy. Listen carefully. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant is called geitonogamy. It is somewhat, or you can say, a type of self-pollination. Why we should consider as self-pollination means because the genes are not coming from the outside. Okay. Now, for this purpose, the flowers are unisexual, monoecious. For example, in case of maize, you can see now the male flowers are at the top, what we call it as tassel, and the female flowers, cob containing silky style and stigma. Flowers are unisexual but monoecious, borne on same plant. Castor also. Or flowers may be even bisexual also. But geitonogamy require pollinating agent. Okay. Genetically, if we consider geitonogamy, it is similar to autogamy. I told you. Why we consider as autogamy? Because the genes are not coming from outside. So note the difference between homogamy and geitonogamy. Okay. Now we shall proceed to the next one. In some plants like viola, axalis, camelina, axalis ಅಂದರೆ ಮಜ್ಜಿಗೆ ಗಿಡ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಮಜ್ಜಿಗೆ ಗಿಡ. Camelina, a type of monocot grass, it is a weed, we can say now, weed, common in our area. Produce two types of flowers. Camelina produce two types of flowers. What are those? Chasmogamous flowers and clistogamous flowers. Flowers are two types, chasmogamous and clistogamous. Chasmogamous flowers. See the diagram. Flowers at the top. ಮೇಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ flowers. Chasmogamous flowers are those types of flowers which produce the flower with exposed stigma and anther. What is that? Here, the stigma and anther are exposed. Clistogamous flower. You just observe at the base of the camelina. The flowers appear like bud. These flowers or the clistogamous flowers never open. They are bisexual. Okay. In these plants or in these flowers, self-pollination is compulsory. So, forced self-pollination takes place. It is called clistogamy. What do you call clistogamy? Forced self-pollination is called clistogamy. Flowers are clistogamous type of flowers. For example, ನೀವು ಹಲಸಿನಣ್ಣನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದಿರಿ, ಹಲಸಿನ ಮರದ ಹೂವನ್ನು ನೋಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾರಾದರೂ ನೋಡಿದಿರಿ? ನೋಡೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಯಾರನ್ನು. ಇಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ದಿ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಬಡ್ ಥರ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅದರೊಳಗಡೆ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಹಿಯರ್ ಇನ್ ಜಾಕ್ ಫ್ರೂಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ pollination is a forced type. What you call clistogamy. Okay. So thus we come across two types of flowers, chasmogamous and clistogamous flowers. So what are the advantages of self-pollination? See, nature always prefer cross-pollination and try to suppress self-pollination. But In self-pollination, some advantages are also there. What are the advantages? Here, the seed setting is assured. It is definite. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರನೇ ನಾವು ಹಲಸಿನಣ್ಣು ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಹಲಸಿನ ತೊಳೆ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಎ ಫ್ಲವರ್, ಅದರೊಳಗಡೆ ಬೀಜ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದರಲ್ಲೂ ಬೀಜ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ದ ಸೀಡ್ ಸೆಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ಡೆಫನೇಟ್ ಆರ್ assured, that is. Next point, pollinating agent not required. Okay, what happens? Repeated self-pollination leads to the inbreeding depression. It is expressed. Then another important point is we can maintain pure lines. Pure line means if you study the genetics, homogamous plants, we say pure lines. For example, in pea plant, tall plant means capital T, capital T. Round and yellow plant means capital R, capital R, capital Y, capital Y. That is pure line. Okay. But many disadvantages are also there. Genetic recombination never occur in self-pollination. Genes never combine in self-pollination. What is the reason? Because the genes are coming from the same plant. Next point. Naturally, new characters will not express. New characters will not appear. Next, if self-pollination is continued for many generations, the progenies develop weak characters. They may not adjust better to the environment. Because of this reason, nature prefers crosspollination. Another important point is inbreeding depression occurs. Inbreeding depression. ಎಲ್ಲ ವೀಕ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಪೀ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಟಾಲ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಡಾರ್ಫ್ನೆಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸೀಡ್ ಕಲರ್, that is a green color, and wrinkleness express ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So that's all about advantages and disadvantages for 2 marks. Pollination for 1 mark. Chasmogamous flowers for 1 mark. Okay. Now you can see the diagram of Camelina. Camelina, the full name is Camelina bengaliensis. See the chasmogamous flowers at the top, and at the base you can see bird-like flowers, bird-like clistogamous flowers. Thus we find 2 types of flowers in this plant. That's all. Autogamy. Autogamy. Okay. Now we shall study the xenogamy. Xenogamy means also called cross-pollination. It's also called allogamy. Allo means different. Gamy means marriage. Here the genes are coming from different plants. Different plants. Okay. Now, what is xenogamy? The transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower of different plant of same kind or the species is called xenogamy. It means hibiscus rosa sinensis pollen grain another plant of hibiscus rosa sinensis ಮೇಲೇನೆ ಬೀಳಬೇಕು. Vinca rosea of one plant must transfer to the vinca rosea of another plant. This is what we call allogamy. Don't mistake Vinca rosea flower on hibiscus flower. Vinca rosea pollens on hibiscus. It's not like that. So, in this type of pollination, the pollen grains are from different plant. The pollination brings genetically different pollen grains to the stigma. Okay. Nature always prefer cross-pollination and always try to suppress self-pollination. You will come to know later on how the nature suppress self-pollination and support cross-pollination when you study the next, what should we call it as, contrivances of cross-pollination. When you study contrivances, you will come to know that one. Advantages of cross-pollination. See, because of cross-pollination, genetic variability is there. Genetic variability means the genes are coming from different plant. Naturally, the progenies are different. Okay. Then the progenies yield better when compared to the homogots like the autogamy. In case of autogamy, the yield is very low or decreases. Another disadvantage. Then the progenies produced by allogamy adapt better to the environment. ಎಂಥ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ನಲ್ಲೂ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಉಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತವೆ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್. That is another one. Other advantages also there. So if you study carefully, cross-pollination is nothing but natural hybridization. You will come to know what is hybridization later on. Okay. So that is the definition and advantages of cross-pollination. Next, as we know, in cross-pollination, pollen is present in one plant and the female gamete, the egg, is present in another plant. Both of them must come nearer each other for fertilization. How it occurs means through some agents it takes place. Depending upon the agent, pollination classified into two types. One is biotic, abiotic pollination. In biotic pollination, the pollinating agent is a living organism. For example, bees, bird, bat, flies, honeybees, like that. Abiotic. A means absent. Biotic means life. So life is absent. Abiotic agent. Common abiotic agent, for example, water acts as abiotic agent. Then wind acts as abiotic agent for pollination. Okay. Majority of plants make use of biotic agent for cross-pollination. But small group of plants make use abiotic agent for cross-pollination. Okay. So now this classification is based on the type of agent. So we shall have another type of classification for pollination. Pollination may be classified depending upon the pollinating agent. So pollination is classified into as follows. Anemophily. Anemo means wind. What is anemophily? The pollination takes place by the wind is called anemophily. Here, pollinating agent is wind. Abiotic, lifeless. Hydrophily. Hydro refers to water. The pollination takes place by water is called hydrophily. Pollinating agent is water. Abiotic agent. Okay. Now, next. Zoophily. Zoo means animals. See, pollination takes place by animals is called zoophily. Pollination takes place by animals is called zoophily. Okay. Animals means biotic agents. Say for example, bees, butterflies, wasps, flies, ants, birds like sunbird, hummingbird, even bats and crow, some of the big animals like primates, lemurs, primate means lemurs, arboreal rodents. Arboreal means ಮರದ ಮೇಲೆ ವಾಸ ಮಾಡೋಂಥ ಇಲಿಗಳು. Reptiles, say, one reptile is there called gecko, which is a flying lizard. Flying lizard, gecko, may bring about pollination. Okay. Majority of cross-pollination takes place by bees or honey bees. That is, 80% of cross-pollination takes place by honey bees. You imagine if there are no honey bees, ನಮಗೆ cross-pollination ತುಂಬ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Role of honeybees maximum or more. Okay. Then entomophily, I told you. Entomo means insects. Pollination takes place by insects is called entomophily. Chirapterophily, even pollination takes place by bat is called chirapterophily. Bats. Malacophily, snails pollinate the flowers. Malacophily. Myrmecophily, even small ants pollinate the flowers. Myrmecophily, pollination by ants. Even birds take part. Pollination by birds is called ornithophily. No, a big animal like elephant pollinate big flower, Rafflesia. It's not included in your syllabus. Next, very important part. What is anemophily? Write the characteristic feature of anemophilous flowers. Anemophilous flowers for 5 marks. Pollination takes place by wind is called anemophily. In this type of pollination, wind acts as pollinating agent. Wind means abiotic agent. Okay. Look here. Small group of plants, I told you, take part. Say grasses. You know grasses. And most of our crop plants means ನಾವು ಬೆಳೆ ಬೆಳಿತೀವಿ. ಬಾಜ್ರಾ, ಸಜ್ಜೆ, ರಾಗಿ, finger millet, jawar, pearl millet, sajje, foxtail, naune. So these are pollinated by wind. Okay. So here wind acts as pollinating agent. Naturally, the flowers are adjusted or adapted for this type of pollination. And flowers shows some adaptations. How the anemophilous flowers adapted for cross-pollination. Now, characteristics or adaptations you can see now. One by one. See the diagram of a grass. Okay, I will tell you later on. The anemophilous flowers are usually, generally, inconspicuous. You know the meaning of inconspicuous? Very small in size, colorless, because color is not required. Why the color is not required? The pollinating agent is non-living one, abiotic. It can't recognize the color. Hence the flowers are colorless. Because the flowers are very small, group put together and forms what is known as inflorescence. Flowers are small, colorless, and form inflorescence. Say for example, ಜೋಳದ ತೆನೆ ನೋಡಿದಿರಿ, ರಾಗಿ ತೆನೆ ನೋಡಿದಿರಿ, ಈವನ್ ಕಾರ್ನ್ ಕಾಬ್ ಮೆಕ್ಕೆಜೋಳ ನೋಡಿದಿರಿ. ಮೇಲೆ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಮೇಲ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸು, ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ತೆನೆ ದಪ್ಪ ಇರೋದು ಫೀಮೇಲ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಸಿಲ್ಕಿ ಸ್ಟೈಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ. Monoecious condition is there. Okay. Second character. Flowers never produce scent or nectar. Scent or nectar. Scent is not necessary. Fragrance is not necessary because the pollinating agent is wind abiotic agent. Nectar is also not produced. You know nectar? Honey. Honey is not produced because it's not useful to the wind. Flowers produce large amount of pollen grains. Very important factor. Because every chances of wastage of pollen grain will be there. Whenever the wind blows at a faster rate, the pollen grains carried away from the plant. Wastage of pollen grains will be there. To avoid that, produce large amount of or quantity of pollen grain. When compared to the female flowers, ovules are produced in less number. Okay. Then you see the diagram showing the grass flower. The pollen grains are light. Light means here it's not ಬೆಳಕು, ಹಗೂರಾಗಿರ್ತವೆ, light, non-sticky, ಅಂಟದಿಲ್ಲ, and easily carried by the wind. Okay. Stamens, examine carefully. They are versatile stamens. Stamens nalli ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಟೈಪ್ ಇದೆ. Bacific stamen, dorsific stamen, versatile stamens. Versatile stamens are characteristic of monocots, especially the grasses. Here, the stamens are well exposed to the atmosphere. Sometimes the pollen grains got wings. Winged pollen grains are found in pinus plant, a gymnosperm. What is the use of versatile stamen? A mild breeze liberates the pollen because it swings in the air. Next, if you examine what is known as the stigma is highly branched and it is feathery. It catches easily the wind-borne pollen grains. Another important point, female flowers have single ovule. Okay. So that's all about anemophily. Okay.